Well, if you'd like to give me a short description of your book, what gave you the idea, and just basically how it came about.
Well, I met Richard Zevitz at a conference, a criminal justice conference, and he had done 10 years of historical research on the Mississippi River Wars and a particular set of brothers, the Spears brothers. And I read his research and looked through his notes and got interested, and he'd asked me if I would kind of try to translate that research into a novel. So he and I worked on the novel together, and we became great friends, and the novel's called Long Road Home, The Trial and Tribulations of a Confederate Soldier. And of course we added a couple of fictional characters. And it has an element of suspense, there's a little romance in it, but it's really the story starting at Fort Henry of the conflict that ran through Fort Donelson, New Madrid campaign, Island Number 10, and they ended with the surrender and the transport to prisons up north for the Confederates, particularly Camp Randall, where the Spears brothers were. And it gives you a pretty good picture of prison life, the conflict. It really puts you in touch with it on a visceral level. It's also a story about a somewhat disgraced officer, Eli Forrest, and an enlisted man, George Spears, kind of an unlikely alliance, unlikely friendship that became somewhat of a road movie, thus The Long Road Home, a journey of them trying to get back home, and the perils of that, and the trials of that. And one of the characters survives, which is somewhat historically accurate, and then it ends with an epilogue that I think, to me, was what sold me on doing the book. So you know, we've been very fortunate. We've had some nice reviews, and it's been so far pretty well received. So, and it was enjoyable working together with Richard as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You said it dealt with a disgraced officer. What happened there that caused his...
Well, we might say he was a bit of a romantic, perhaps too much so, that got him in trouble. And that he was actually he was one of the fictional characters that played against the more serious, real character that George Spears, one of the Spears brothers. He was sort of you might say, the leader of those three brothers, the one that was the one who was the most responsible. And so we created that contrast between the serious George and the less serious officer who was willing to kind of go against the traditions of the day where officers didn't mix with enlisted men. He actually preferred the company of enlisted men, so he and George became friends. So he had we might say, a relationship with the general's daughter that didn't work out.
You're a criminal justice and criminology professor. What draws you to the Civil War?
Well, you know, war is a part of a moral perspective on the broad range of justice, social justice, criminal justice, and you have war crimes trials. You have people accused of abusing prisoners. You have, in the midst of war, the rules kind of move aside in terms of obtaining objectives, military objectives. So, and we see a lot of that even in modern times, don't we? With current conflicts, that war is kind of they call it the fog of war. And so I was interested, particularly a war between Americans, which was particularly moving in a way, you know, cousin against cousin, brother against brother, family members on one side, other family members on another. So you see that, and the reality of it was there was a lot of different motives for why some of the folks fought for the Confederacy. We look at it on a political level, but reality, people join and engage in a conflict for everything from personal honor because they don't want to abolish slavery, because a lot of these guys didn't even have slaves. I mean, slavery wasn't that big of an issue for them. They were poor, or they were of modest income. And, you know, a lot of times it seems to me those things resonate even today in terms of what starts wars and the consequences of war. And so I think it's really a story about the war, the Civil War, and conflict between men on a ground roots level. In other words, it's not about tactics, it's not about generals and looking at maps, it's about what the average soldier goes through. And I think that's one of the things that I have enjoyed hearing about. People have said, yeah, that's what it's about, and we've had a couple of reviews that pointed that out. This is war on the visceral level between people who actually do the fighting.